Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is none other than Embrace the Darkness. So, what is Embrace the Darkness about? Well, essentially, the Doctor and Charlotte Pollard are looking into a mystery about a planet that once went dark. It turns out that 1,000 years ago, their sun just up and went. And the Doctor and Charlotte can't quite understand why this is happening. But they're not the only ones. A bunch of scientific explorers who have gone to the planet's surface in search of minerals and wealth have suddenly found themselves amongst a very strange occurrence indeed. It turns out that all of a sudden, all their power one night just went out, and they don't know why. And to make matters worse, something in the dark was stirring and appears to have taken away their sight. Charlotte and the Doctor essentially then turn up, but they turn up a couple years early, looking as the sun once goes out, and then they head forward in time a couple of centuries to see what life has been like for the planet whilst it's been plunged in darkness. Upon arriving on the planet, they end up looking around a space station that seems and appears to be abandoned. There's some lights still stranded, but by the looks of it, it's only emergency lighting. And the Doctor and Charlotte are having a very tough time adapting to life on this space station, as one of the robot crew who has gone to investigate the disappearance of the main crew has started to have a bit of a disagreement with Charlotte, talking of her as a bit of a danger to the crew. The Doctor then points out to this robot member of staff that Charlotte's not necessarily a danger, as she is just a bit of one of the human beings from the past who essentially has not had any modifications or any bits of medicine pumped into her like we do nowadays when it comes to flus and such. He struggles to convince this robot member of staff, and Charlotte ends up having to flee. But as she flees down the space station, she finally finds the missing crew. Upon discovering the missing crew, she's baffled to discover the fact that their eyes have been taken away. She doesn't quite understand what's happened, but she realises that the crew don't even realise this has happened. All they know is that they can't see any light anywhere. And then Charlotte points out to them that the reason this is because they have no eyes. As the story continues, Charlotte's eyes are also taken from her, and this starts to become a reoccurring problem. But eventually the eyes are returned to everyone who are stolen, and it's explained to the Doctor and Charlotte and the crew exactly why the species of the local inhabitants of the planet has done this. They haven't done this to be cruel or to be mean, but essentially they've done it because they have learned to adapt to the darkness. Later down the line, however, the Doctor makes one of the biggest mistakes. He accidentally relights the sun of the planet, essentially attracting their enemy to the planet. The Doctor does this out of ignorance and then goes pleading to the species that he is now endangered for mercy. He believes they're going to whip him or hurt him or execute him, as many species have attempted to do over the years. But instead, he gets the most shocking thing. They actually forgive him. But to his relief, when the ancients finally turn up the ones who are meant to attack, it turns out it's an archaeology expedition of the ancestors of this species. They didn't in fact get wiped out, but they went off into the stars and didn't realise they poisoned their fellow brethren in doing so. The solar winds from their spaceship seem to have created some kind of radiation disease that was killing their race off. So when they learned that a lot of their species had survived the darkness, the never-ending darkness, it brought them some pride and some happiness in their hearts that they're not the only ones left, and now they can finally know about their ancient culture of the healers of the planet below. Charlotte and the Doctor then head off, and the crew go on their separate ways. The Doctor points out that the professor who made the expedition in the first place should have thought more carefully about the species down below. And just because a planet seems hidden and dark doesn't necessarily mean that it's abandoned. I like this story for many reasons. It reminds me of the Well story, it reminds me of the Satan's Pit and the Beast Below, and most importantly, this story reminds me a little bit of a cross between Midnight and the Ood Sphere. All on the basis that it's about misunderstandings and planets not really being abandoned. So not necessarily Midnight on the grasp of the Midnight monster, but on the Midnight on the grasp of the fact that in Midnight, because it's a diamond planet, they don't believe any life could live on it. And Embrace the Darkness definitely plays on the same hopes and dreams of this. However, I do enjoy this story, but I do really get distracted as the story continues by the comedic timing and the great uh, banter between the crewmates. I don't necessarily feel like the crewmates are in much danger, and that's definitely taken away as well when the crewmates' eyes are returned to them. And for that reason, I've got to mark this down slightly to a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Doctor Who review. Until then, goodbye and stay beautiful, you incredible Whovians.